You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about the Pack. We are not getting into all of that national sports media nonsense that they get wrapped around. We are talking about the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season and sorting through all of the drama and the rumors and now the facts of the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. Of course, follow us on all the socials. Most importantly, head on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. That is such a big deal for us. It means so much. I can't even explain it. And only takes but a click for you. Maybe a couple to get you over there, but you know, it's virtually effortless. So we do appreciate all of these subscribers and listeners hanging out with us every week. Tonight, not much going on, right, Tim? You know, we're just in the dead of the off season with nothing to react to.
What are we going to talk about? I wish they would come up with some news for us, huh?
So, of course, we do have something to talk about, but first, got to tease you so we can talk about our sponsor once again, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, Summerfest tickets, all of those relevant. Check them out. Go get them. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember to support those local Wisconsin businesses, which Ticket King is. Don't be using Ticketmaster and all those other big meanie heads. We don't like big corps around here. We like small corps. Use the small corps. If you're not in Wisconsin, you go support your local businesses. Good evening, Tim. How we doing, man?
Good evening, Miles. I'm doing good, and I am very happy that the Jaire situation is finally over.
Jaire watch has come to an end.
Yeah, it is over, and this long, drawn-out process has finally reached a conclusion. So we're going to talk all about it tonight, but it's nice that now we can move on. Now we know which direction they're headed, and
that's true.
We have our team. At least at this
one less
point,
thing to speculate about.
Yes. Yeah. Less drama, less speculation, less, hey, maybe he's going to come back. No, maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to redo his contract. No, maybe he's not. So
we shouldn't talk about the possibility of a return in case the market's not what he thought it was?
No. I think if there was any possibility of him staying, we would have had a different outcome today. You know, the fact that the report came out, you know, last week that they had offered a revised contract, which, you know, apparently was a pay cut to his base salary with incentives to earn back some of that money, or maybe close to the 17.5 that he was due. That was at least like, hey, they're now considering bringing him back, when all offseason they weren't offering that deal. He wasn't interested in the pay cut. They were trying to trade him. There was no trades happening. It was kind of like, okay, maybe they changed their mind. They realize they can't get anything for him. They don't want to just let him go. But then he turned down the proposed revised contract, and the Packers said, okay, we got to move on. So that's where we're at. To me, and we've talked about this all throughout the off season. I'm not surprised by it. I'm not surprised by the final outcome. I guess there was just that little glimmer of hope that maybe things would be worked out by the fact that they were at least engaging with his agent on the revised contract. But really not a surprise. You know, I don't think he'll make $17.5 million next year, whoever signs him, but he might make more than whatever they were proposing in this revised contract. I think that's what he's hoping for. And he gets to pick a team, I guess, too. So there's that. And the other interesting part that came out earlier, but then was brought up again today, was they had teams interested in a trade. Apparently Buffalo was one of those teams. would have been able to work out a trade, but they wanted him to revise his contract, and Jaire and his agent didn't want to do that. So that's why the Packers couldn't get anything for him, is because nobody wanted him at $17.5 million. And, the Packers obviously didn't want to keep him at $17.5 million either. So they could have gotten something for him if he was willing to redo his contract. But he wasn't. So that brings us to here. And, it's I know you and I disagree, and we've been through this throughout the offseason, but it is a shame to see it end like this. And, the player that he was before all the injuries started setting in, how good he was and how important he was to their defense, their team overall, and just the energy he brought when he was healthy and on the field. It stinks. And it stinks that injuries have wrecked his career. Maybe he'll stay healthy now going forward. I don't really think he's going to. Kind of is. You are what you are at this point. But it's, maybe we'll have a better ending. It's a shame because he was really good and we saw what he could be with this team. But I can't blame the Packers for not wanting to pay $17.5 million to a guy who missed a ton of games for him and just wasn't reliable as far as being available on the field. And that's what it came down to. And I know there's a lot of talk about there's other stuff behind the scenes and getting along with coaches and buying in and all that stuff. We don't really know the true story, so I don't even want to speculate on that kind of stuff. But what we do know is he just couldn't play in the games enough, right? 14 games the last 2 years. You can't pay a guy near the top of the market at his position when he's just not available and on the field. So I understand it from their perspective. I wish they could have got something for him, but it's 31 other teams telling you we don't think he's worth $17.5 million either. Oh, that's
well, and maybe it's $17.5 million plus the compensation to get him. I think that's more of what it is. And maybe it's not $17.5 million. But I think it's just when it comes down to the compensation that you've got to give to get him plus the contract. I get it, because it's not necessarily that you don't believe in the guy. The question is, how much of a risk is it? And the truth is, the Packers know that more than anybody else. They know how much of a risk it is to bet on him for another year better than anybody. Yeah. Their trainers do. So that's where, my first reaction to this, obviously I was not happy about Jaire being released. I definitely was rooting for him to come back. But my first thought was, Gute's usually not wrong when he makes these moves. And he did seem to make every attempt to at least give him that next year to say, hey, all right, I can get healthy. Here's what it looks like. I'm still 28 years old in my NFL prime. When I'm healthy on the field, I'm one of the best, and it seems like they were willing to give him the chance to bet on himself, and he didn't feel the need to bet on himself, at least for a low price. Either that, or he's thinking, well, if I am going to get paid a lower price and bet on myself, I'm going to do it in a different defense or in a different place, or I get to pick where I do that.
Right.
That seems most likely to me, is that he, would prefer to pick where he's going to take a discount instead of being just forced to take a discount because he's here. I don't know that there's a lot of better situations for him. This room needs him. He's familiar with it. Now, maybe he doesn't like Hafley's system. He was busting his tail to try to get back. And I know a lot of the media wanted to get at him and say he wasn't or whatever. But, again, the point that I made was a guy that doesn't want to get back, he goes on IR a lot sooner than Jaire did. It just didn't work out. And I just think that if, wherever he is this season, he's got to prove that he's, worth something so he can get a nice third contract and all of that. But he's not going to, if he's not going to do it in Green Bay, you just kind of wonder, all right, well, maybe he just doesn't like Hafley's defense as much. And he thinks that there are other defensive systems out there that he can showcase himself better. Maybe it's not about money at all. It's more about that. In this case, and I hate this, man, I really love Jaire Alexander. I think that his tenure as a Packer was a lot of fun to watch. And when he was on the field, man, he was special. He's a special player. So I'm glad that he did wear the green and gold. I'm glad that he did have, 7 seasons in Green Bay? I think 6.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was 7. Yeah, doing the math, 18 since 2018 was when he was drafted. So
yeah. So it's just so first things first. Salute to a great Packer, Jaire Alexander. Thank you for the entertainment, the years. I just loved the spark that he brought. All the that moment when he was jumping on that local news reporter's spot, and the Pack is back, and she didn't even know who that was. That was so classic. Man, he just had dude. He had such a neat personality, and I'm just glad he was in Green Bay. So thank you, Jaire Alexander. And I see some of the comments here. We'll get into a few of them here. We got our showers jumping in first. Says on the plane to Boston tonight for sure. Catching up the replay when I get there. Best Pack pod hands down. Come on, man. Thanks,
thank you.
Showers. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bill Patz is with us. Greetings, gents. Greetings, sir. And says I feel bad for Jaire. The injuries must be frustrating, but it's a big disappointment with Pack Nation. Another number 1 draft pick that didn't meet expectations. But we remain.
I think
I disagree with that. He was an All-Pro. 2-time, right? Or second team All-Pro, I think.
Yeah, one time. And he got his second contract. He got paid big, and then
he did get a second contract.
For a first-round pick, I think he met It's a shame, the injuries hit, and that kind of obviously derailed things. But I think he met expectations. And I'll be honest,
now
when he was coming out and they drafted him, I was like, man, they took a smaller cornerback. I was not initially in love with that pick. Their history of taking cornerbacks small, and he was right at the threshold, or they were, stretching the threshold for Jaire. I questioned it, but he far exceeded my expectations, and it sucks the way the last few years have gone with all the injuries. But yeah, I don't look at him as having not met expectations. I think he absolutely did. It stinks that once the shoulder injury hit him back in 2021, he hasn't been the same since then. So.
No, he hasn't. And shoulders and backs are tough for DBs, man. It's tough to come back from those things. If you did have higher expectations for him, that's fair. Maybe he didn't meet those expectations. You wanted a few more All-Pros. I did. I certainly wanted to see that. But yeah, I would say, for being a first-round pick, you can't call him a bust. Certainly would have loved for him to retire as a Packer, but that's just such a rare thing these days for a guy to retire with the same team that he got drafted by. So wish him all the best, though, until he goes to the Vikings or the Bears, and then he is no longer relevant.
Yeah, that's it. Hopefully he goes to the AFC.
Yeah, go to the AFC, dude. Go to the Chiefs. Go get a ring, man. Do that thing. Let's see here. We got Bob Swede says the $55 million man caused this. Sheesh. Shots fired. Matthew Tannen here. Is there anybody we can sign to replace Jaire? What do we think, Tim?
No, I mean, not really. I think there's some guys out there that maybe you could sign for depth. You're not bringing somebody that's going to be Jaire Alexander, right? But if you want to bring somebody in to compete to be your number 4 cornerback or something like that, yeah, sure. There's, Kendall Fuller's out there, Stephon Gilmore's out there, Rasul Douglas, though, I know some people were throwing that around today. He was pretty bad in Buffalo last year. I don't think he's got much left. But the guys out there right now are out there for a reason. They're not that good. Maybe they take a shot at a reclamation project and bring them in and see what they look like on a cheap deal in training camp. And if they don't have a good camp, you cut them. I could see them possibly doing that, but I think the more likely scenario is they go through camp, they let some of the younger guys compete, and then see where they are at the end of the preseason and cut down time. And maybe if they're not comfortable with their depth, then you go out and you make a waiver claim or you sign somebody at the end of training camp. But for right now, I don't expect a big move or anything like that.
Yeah, I can't say that I do either. I think right now, and you got to have some time to stew on it, let the emotions, settle down a little bit. I think this is more of a sign of how the Packers feel about the rest of the room that they have. Um, you know, I don't think the depth issues are as bad as most fans feel that they are. Um, we're starting to hear buzz about Hayden, and we're starting to hear, Kamal or Kalen King, and those two, they're behind three other guys, and then there's also Javon Bullard. So I think there's a lot of pieces at play here, and I think that the Packers believe that enough of those pieces will pan out for this secondary to be okay. I think they know more about Bullard than we do right now. I'm very interested in how he affects this decision in this group, because he is one that we're kind of looking at, like, how do you fit him in here? Especially if Jaire's back, like where do you find room for him? But if they found that, he's got some skills at corner and outside, and, that he can compete in that category, then maybe the depth isn't as bad as we think.
Yeah, and I think the other way to look at it too is, like, they were pretty damn good defense last year with Jaire only playing 7 games, right? Like, Jeff Halfley did a great job, and they're going to have the same guys back, except you're swapping Eric Stokes for Nate Hobbs, which is a huge upgrade in my opinion.
Yep.
So, like, from my perspective, like, you've upgraded your cornerback room just going from Stokes to Hobbs, and I wasn't even counting Jaire because he wasn't there very much last year, and I didn't think he would be there this year. So I think they've upgraded it. Yeah, I'm concerned about the depth, certainly. We'll see what King and Hayden and the 7th round pick Michael Robinson are. So it is concerning. But if, like, your top 3 guys get hurt, you can look to any team in the league. Like, you're not going to have good depth. You're not going to feel good about it. You're not going to, have good depth then. So they got to stay healthy. Carrington Valentine's got to continue to take a step. I like Valentine. I think he looks good at times, but maybe he can be more consistent. And then they really like Nixon outside. Hobbs, they're paying a ton of money to, and I'm really excited for him. I think they might have found something in him. I know, we'll see. But it's certainly an upgrade over playing Eric Stokes. And then Bullard in the slot. So, like, I feel pretty good about their cornerback room. Yeah, sure, if they brought in another veteran there for depth, that would be great. But as it is now, I think it's in a better spot than it was at the end of last season. And honestly, like, a lot of their cornerback play is going to be based on how good their pass rush is. If they have a pass rush, they're going to look pretty good at corner. If they don't, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the Eagles are a great example of that. Not to say that their secondary wasn't good, because their secondary is pretty dang good, but their pass rush was also one of the best. So even a bad secondary wouldn't look bad behind that. So if you're a good secondary behind one of the best pass rushes, now you're really I mean, that's essentially what the 2010 Super Bowl Packers team was. You had a great secondary, and you had a great pass rush, and they complemented each other so well. And it's tough to land that, man. That's like getting lightning in a bottle these days in the NFL.
It's incredibly tough. And I'd rather have a great pass rush than great corners. And I don't think these guys need to be great. Like, I think Hobbs, Valentine, Bullard in the slot, Nixon, like, I think they can be fine. Like, yeah, you're not going to have an all-pro out of those guys, but I don't think you necessarily need to. Just as long as they stay healthy and play consistently, I think they'll be fine at corner. It's going to come down to success or failure. Their defense is going to come down to the pass rush. So I feel better about the cornerback room right now, setting aside Jaire because I didn't expect him back. I feel better about it. I mean, I can critique it and say I wish they would have taken a cornerback in the draft sooner than the 7th round. The last 2 years, that's all they've done is taken a 7th round corner. I think both years it should have been addressed earlier. That's my criticism of it. But again, like, I think they're going to be okay at corner. I really do.
Yeah, and hindsight will be 2020 on those draft picks. I did not like this class for corner. I was pretty vocal about that the whole time. But last year, I agree. Last year could have been a good year for them to go get the higher valued corner.
There weren't a lot of I'm sorry, I don't mean to. There weren't a lot of
Go ahead.
Packers type
Go ahead.
cornerbacks. There weren't a lot of Packers type cornerbacks in the draft this year, right? Like it just didn't match
No,
up
there
with
weren't.
them. And then when they were picking, those guys really weren't available. So like you can kind of
Or the
understand
guys
it.
that did match their profile were the ones that had big question marks with injuries. And
Exactly.
yeah, it just, a lot of things didn't match up for this class in the way that the Packers draft corners. But they do seem to be enthusiastic about the guys that they got, even the undrafted guys and their 7th-round pick. And their 7th-round pick, I mean, it's that time of year, right? You go and you watch, YouTube clips of all these different guys. So you're going to see the best things of them. But he seems to have some really good instincts. I do think he'll have a chance to compete in this group. Not necessarily to crack the starting lineup out of the gate, but if he can get out there and have some solid reps and learn and get comfortable in this system, if somebody does go down, he might be a guy that can hold his own, so stuff like that gets exciting. And that's why I get kind of excited to hear, usually this time of year, you got your OTAs coming into mini camp, getting started this week. You start hearing buzz about some guys, right? And nobody can say anything for sure, but what you can do is kind of collect generally, like, who are you hearing buzz about consistently, and a lot of times that translates into training camp, and then boom, this guy out, hey man, he looks good. We've seen that a few times, and that's what it feels like is happening with Kamal Hayden and Kalen King right now. It's like, hey, these guys, maybe they're all right, and we don't get to see that really until training camp. We'll get a little taste of it here in mini camp, probably some one-on-ones. We'll get to see what guys do, but training camp, it'll start heating up, and there'll be a lot of competition there. There's a lot of capable guys there. There's just a lot of question marks about what they're capable of. Like, are you, can you consistently put it together and grasp the system and get out there and contribute without making too many mistakes? I think that's like the biggest thing. And last year, I know some folks have been pointing it out, but last year, a lot of what contributed to the Packers' struggles were horribly timed mistakes. Too many mistakes, but their mistakes were just really, really bad timed. So that compounds things, and a few of those mistakes don't happen or go the other way. You're talking maybe about a different season. And so it's just such small differences. So it just seems to me like, yeah, the Packers are betting on the guys that they got in the building, and I'm okay with that. When they do that in the past, they've seemed to have been pretty right, at least more often than not. Now, let's talk about what is this, what happens now? Are there any other moves to be made? Not necessarily at cornerback, but maybe Elton Jenkins get a deal now?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope they do something with him, and I could see them like giving him maybe a little more guaranteed money this year, or like restructuring a little bit. I don't think he gets any kind of like mega extension or anything like that, but it does free up a lot of cap space. The thing is, I think they're going to use that cap space on guys who are set to be free agents at the end of the upcoming season. So like you can take that cap space you have this year and roll it into next year if they choose to do that, or you can start using it now and extending guys. So Zach Tom is coming up, Wyatt, Quay Walker, the receivers, Dobbs and Watson. Like they have a lot of contracts that are coming up, and I don't want to get into a debate about all those guys and who they should extend or not, because the comments will blow up on us. But that's what I think they're going to potentially do, is use some of that money now to get ahead of these extensions, or to keep that as available money that they can roll into next year, where they're going to have a lot of decisions to make. They have some contracts that get bigger next offseason. So like before they cut Jaire, they were actually over what the projected cap is for next year already. So now they cut them, they're underneath. Like there's going to be tons of moves. Yeah, there's going to be tons of moves. They're getting under it cleanly. Russ Baller do all of his magic like he normally does. But this gives them a lot more money to play with now. So I don't think there's any like immediate help coming for the 2025 team right now. There's really nobody out there. Like Jadeveon Clowney's still out there. I haven't heard anything since he got cut about people bringing him in for a visit, or who's interested or who's not. That's one name that's out there. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, and he's another guy that's been hurt a bunch. There's just not really anybody right now. The Trey Hendrickson thing is not going to happen. I wish, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, I don't expect a big move. Now they certainly could make a move during camp or at cut down time, or maybe even during the season. Who knows? But I think the money that's available now is for guys that are already on their roster.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me, because there are a few that you've got to make decisions about, and that seems like they want to keep, which is a good thing. And if you got players good enough that you want to sign, you don't want to let them get to another team. That's good. I mean, you're doing something right in scouting. But you have to do that wisely, right? That's how teams get themselves in cap hell and kick the can down the road and all that. So yeah, that's where I looked at this move. And again, like my emotions say, no, I love me some Jaire, man. I love 2-3, but does this make logical sense in more ways than one? Yeah, it does. It really does. Financially, it gives them a lot of breathing room and freedom. And there are plenty of players that need that attention on this roster. I think Jenkins, in my opinion, seems like he's at the top of the list, specifically because they're asking him to change to a position that gets paid less, So if you're going to go off and do that, and you already know he's one of the best guards in the league, yeah, I get it. The man wants his money, which, I got to believe that they're willing to do that now that they've got the ability to. I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm excited to see what this does, though. Like, what is the ripple effect? Who are the guys that get deals done? Let me ask you this: what's the over under for deals done in camp? Is it more than one?
Oh, that's a good question. I certainly think somebody will get done. Hopefully it's Zach Tom, and we don't have to take this into the season. Ooh, is there more than possibly? I'm going to say no. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
That means you don't think Jenkins gets one.
Well, okay, if we're talking about Jenkins, not an extension, but like they kick some money around or something on this contract.
Just anything to kind of appease the situation.
I'll say between now and like the start of camp, or the first few days of camp, they get Jenkins and Tom done. They do something with those contracts.
You think too?
Yeah, I think too. It seems like they want Quay to sign too. Like they want to get him signed. So maybe that gets done. Maybe Wyatt, now that they picked up the 5th-year option on him. But I could see them waiting on those deals. And then I certainly think they wait and make a decision on Watson and Dobbs until later on. I mean, they probably have made up their mind on Dobbs already, but you can always change.
Happen. There's no reason not to, right?
Yeah, you can always change your mind, right? Like if Dobbs goes out there and has 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, you might say, you know what, we're going to try to re-sign him now.
We'll hang on to this guy.
Yeah. Right. So I think a lot of it they got to let play out, but I could see them getting Tom done, and I could see them somehow moving some money around to make Jenkins happy.
Yeah, I hope so. I would love to go into the season with those two happy.
Yes.
The two most important pieces on your offensive line, for sure. You want to keep them stable, keep them happy, and keep them leading this young group and hopefully gelling together nicely, figuring out their best 5. But yeah, I'd like to see those get done. I don't think now you could probably save some money if you're convinced that you're going to continue on with Watson by getting him done sooner than later. Like if you're convinced you're going to keep him, don't let him go off and have some kind of 15 touchdown season. You know what I mean? Because it's going to cost you a lot more.
Yes. But obviously the knee injury is complicating that, right? Like, and when he's going to be back. But
for sure. Yeah.
I agree.
Obviously that's not going to happen this season when he comes. I guess, anything's possible, but, very likely that he's not even going to play half of this season. So it would be very difficult for him to probably change his position between now and next offseason. So, yeah, I mean, he's one that you probably do get a discount on depending on how high you think his upside still is after the injury. But from what it sounds like, he's looking good. So that's good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if you want to get ahead of it, but I don't think they're going to do that yet. But I definitely think that Watson's, as much as there's some fans that want to see them move on from him, I think he's the guy that they would much rather extend than Dobbs, right? Like they see the fact that he's a freak athlete, but yes, obviously injury concerns, but yeah. But I
Well,
go
and with him and everything, context always matters, right? The soft
sure.
tissue injuries were, kind of a concern. It seems like that got fixed. That had nothing to do with his ACL injury, right? Even though it's like, well, he's getting injured. The ACL is one, like there's no preventing that. It happens. It happens to the best of them, and it depends on how you bounce back from it. If he bounces back and he's still a freak, then that speaks a lot about him. But yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to what I said about Jaire too. The Packers know better than anybody about his status. Now, if there's still questions about his health and whether he can get on the field, he may be sitting over here saying, I got it. I'm going to get on the field. I'll be fine. While everybody else is going, man, he probably still needs another 6 months to chill out. Something like that, that would make a lot of sense where the Packers are like, look, fine, we're not going to bet on that. With Christian Watson, if he recovers from the ACL, you're kind of back to ground zero. Like you're not really worried about the hamstring stuff. ACL seems fixed. It's fixed. That is what it is. He should be able to be, everything that he was before. And he still has the highest upside. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
The 6'5", the speed, the jumps, like the dude is a freak. And him being in the offense with Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Jaden Reed, man, there's a lot of freakish athleticism amongst those gentlemen. And that is a lot of fun. Like for people that are speculating about Christian Watson being replaced by Matthew Golden, that's not the play. The play is for those two to be on the field at the same time. Because if those two are on the field at the same time, that is nightmares for a defense. That level of speed is absolute nightmares for a defense. And see you, Bob. Swede says Watson can't catch a cold. That's fine. You know what? He maybe I'm not even going to allow that. He can catch a cold. And he actually was, I think, the lowest drop rate amongst the receivers last season. But even assuming that there, Bob, the threat of him is a problem for defenses. His athleticism scares the hell out of defenses because he can get wide open over the top. If you are not ready for him, his speed and athleticism can completely take the top off of a defense. And you do that enough times, he will catch it. So there's just that. But that gives defenses nightmares, especially when they also have to worry about Matthew Golden, and I think we started to see the potential of, good combinations of receivers in this offense before some guys started getting the dropsies. But you would see Christian Watson taking guys up deep with him and opening up the middle of the field just wide open, right? That was when Wicks started making some great catches. Reed started having great games. The middle of the field just completely opens up. And that's only going to get more dramatic when you've got not one guy that can do that, but two. So the play is to root for Watson, Golden, all those guys to be on the field at the same time because they're that good. Not to say, well, Golden should replace Watson. You don't want that. That's failure. If that happens, something went wrong. You don't want that. No, just my 2 cents. You can say I'm wrong if you want to. I'm cool with
that. No, I agree with you. I'm not going to argue that point. No. I don't think in any way Golden's being drafted means he's the replacement for Watson. I think they're different receivers. Yes, they're both speed guys that can get deep. They're different. But one's got really good size, and I think they do different things for you as well. And I absolutely think you can play them both at the same time on the field. And I'm excited whenever that time comes next season, once Watson's back and healthy, to see them on the field together. Like that's one of the most exciting parts of what could be on this offense is getting Watson back healthy and then having Golden, however many games it is in his career, like he's already gotten his feet wet. Now maybe you start seeing him progress and him and Watson on the field together. I can't wait to see the speed. I can't wait to see the ability that they bring to the offense. That's looking forward to that a lot. And I don't think you can discount what Watson brings to the offense when he's healthy.
No, No, when he's healthy, he is a nightmare for defenses. Oh, look at that, Bob. Man, appreciate you. He said I subbed and liked because you guys are cool.
Thank
Man,
you, Bob.
I love that. Thank you so much, Bob. That's awesome. No, we like to have some fun. You know, you guys get up in the comments and you bring some good questions, good information. We have a lot of fun with the comments. So, all right, man. Now shifting gears a little bit, we have had real Packers activity actually over the last week with OTAs. Do you have some of those updates for us, Tim?
Yeah, there were some interesting things that came out of OTAs last week, and then we got minicamp starting this week. We're gonna have 3 days, or it might end up being 2 days, and then sometimes they do like a team activity and cancel the third day, whatever it is. But this is it, and then we won't see the team again until July. But there were some interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be here fast, but it doesn't seem so fast.
Not from here.
No, and there were some interesting things that came out of OTAs, especially from what players said after the practice. Kenny Clark spoke to the media and just happened to mention the fact he had toe surgery in January for an injury that happened the first game of the season down in Brazil and affected him all year. I know at times he was on the injury report, and then at other times he wasn't. He said it affected him. Now, I don't know how much exactly it affected him, but if you're having trouble with your toe, with your foot and pushing off, the fact that you got to then have it operated on right after the season, it says something. Like, it definitely had an effect. So,
well, if you think about how a defensive lineman lines up, they're crunching their toe every time.
Right, and it's your get off. You know, you're pushing off with your feet. Yeah. So I think he deserves a little bit of a break, not completely, letting it all go for the poor performance last season. He had 1 sack. That's not good enough. You're out there every week, injured or not, you got to do better. For sure. But it is something, he wasn't healthy all season. So that was definitely, hadn't heard of it. So that was surprising and makes you realize, okay, there was more to his disappointing season than we originally thought. On the topic of Kenny Clark, also interesting, at least for me, he's been having the whole defense over to his house throughout the offseason for like extra video work. Yeah, video work, watching the practices, watching their individual drills. Like, apparently, and Rashawn Gary had said this, they do it during the season, but this is the first time they've done it in the offseason, during OTAs. I think that's pretty damn good leadership from Kenny Clark, and maybe it means who knows what it's going to mean ultimately for the defense, but he's going out of his way. And especially for a veteran like Kenny Clark, who's been through so many OTA practices and mini camps in the offseason and stuff. He's, a lot of these guys, the veterans, are like, when can I get back home and start working out on my own and getting away? Like, they're kind of, I don't want to say they're going through the motions. They're putting in the work, but it's the same stuff, right? Like, and it's, if you've been through as many as Kenny Clark has, how much is he getting out of it, right? Like, he doesn't have to make that extra effort, I guess is my point, at least at this point in the season. And it's really nice to see that. And it's great leadership, especially for the younger guys, to be able to do that. So, shout out Kenny Clark for doing that. I think that's really cool. And, hopefully it benefits the defense, not just from the film study and getting better, but just from being together and having that chemistry and camaraderie.
No, I think it does. I really, really like that kind of stuff. I think it can make the younger guys more comfortable with certain things. In the formal team setting, it can be intimidating to try to admit, hey, I don't know this, or I'd like to figure this out better, or something like that. Just admit not knowing or not being good enough or whatever it is. Whereas in those settings like that, players only, player led, it's at the house, you're kicked back a little bit. It's a lot easier to get with a guy one-on-one and be like, hey man, I don't really understand this, or can you help me try to fix this issue? And man, that's where I feel like a lot of bonds are built, and you start seeing that growth of the young guys. Because otherwise it can be intimidating. It can be tough to learn on the fly when you are intimidated, so I love it. I think that's news. It's hard for, I think, people to get excited about players having meetings, but man, those are very good signs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I want to bring up with the D line, while we're talking D line, Kenny Clark, Lucas Van Ness also came out and spoke to the media, and apparently he played with a broken thumb for a good portion of the season. Had a brace or cast on it, and it hurt him and his ability to use his hands, which is huge for a pass rusher, especially for one young like him who's trying to develop his moves and develop his pass rushing repertoire. Not able to do that, or being greatly compromised by it with a broken thumb. So I didn't know about that injury. That wasn't really disclosed either during the season. But he had it obviously for several weeks, and it affected him. So a little bit of I don't want to say it's an excuse because that sounds negative, but it kind of makes you see more of the whole picture as far as what went on last season with Van Ness and why he didn't take that next step that we were all hoping for. And on the field, kind of interesting too, both OTA practices that have been open to the media, when they've done 2-minute drill, Van Ness has been taking some snaps inside at defensive tackle, which is interesting. I know. Yeah, I'm okay with it too. And I know in college in Iowa, he moved around. Like he was a defensive tackle at times. He was an end. Like hell, I mean,
a guy with his athleticism could be a nightmare for an interior lineman.
If he figures it out as a pass rusher and you're going to put him inside over a guard too, like hell yeah, that's great. The more you can do and versatility, that's awesome. Like, so I thought that was interesting that they're potentially maybe going to experiment with them at times. I'm sure it's just going to be like certain situations, 3rd and longs, like those obvious passing situations, like 2-minute drill, like they were doing. By kicking them inside. So something to watch out for as we get into training camp. And then one other nugget, and this kind of goes back to our O-line discussions we've had throughout the season. Matt LaFleur came out and said Zach Tom's the right tackle. They think he can play all 5 positions. He's shown that he can play them, but he's going to be the right tackle. So that whole like Stenovich coming out and saying, yeah, he's competing. He's really not competing, and he's going to be the right tackle. It was nice to get confirmation. Like they're not moving him. It's his job. Like, and he's the guy.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that, right? Like at least that's a cornerstone to work with. You get Jenkins at center. Those are nice, foundational, solid pieces as long as they stay healthy.
Right. And so now we know watch left tackle with the competition there and watch right guard. And again, and we talked about this last week, Jacob Monk has been getting snaps at center with Jenkins out. So they've Monk's been there, Ryan's been at center. They've kind of been rotating them. So Monk's a guy to watch in training camp.
Competing.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously, once Jenkins is back, he's not competing for a starting job. But
not at center, but he might make some noise at the right guard position.
Sure. Yeah. And to make the roster be a depth guy, be like maybe that next man up, interior lineman. So it's, he's a guy to watch going in the training camp.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I've been a Jacob Monk fan now for, I guess since last year. No, this is a good time though of year to figure out, who are they looking at and how, and their moves, they're not going to reveal everything about what they think, obviously, but their moves and their actions can tip us off to some of these things. I think their willingness to release Jaire the way they did, obviously we've analyzed that it makes sense from a few angles, but you also have to look at the room and go, all right, like if we think this guy can get on the field even week 1 and we don't have a lot of faith in the rest of the room, you got to keep this guy. Financially you can afford to. It's not great, but you can afford to. So I think that they've, that tips off their confidence in the rest of the room there. To me, Jacob Monk getting snaps at center while Jenkins is out, that tells me that he's probably kind of the next man up in the interior. Or he's at least pushing for it. Depends on how versatile he is, or is he just a center? Is he going to be able to go get some snaps at guard? But it's not Sean Ryan taking those snaps. It is Jacob Monk, So at least that's probably what they prefer at this point. So.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan's been getting them too at center, but the fact that it's not just exclusively Ryan, that they've been comfortable enough to put Monk in there, it says something, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So, so now we got mini camp starting up. I'm watching one-on-ones. I really like the receiver DB one-on-ones. We should get a few of those. I don't know if we'll get any meaningful O-line, D-line one-on-ones, but it's just kind of, for me, it's more of a continuation of OTAs. I think it's a little bit more formal because it's mandatory now, but it's probably more so them figuring out what their camp schedule and routine is going to be like. Like, here, this is what it's going to be like, fellas. Get ready, a couple weeks away, and so yeah, I don't know. Is there anything specifically you're watching for it?
No, just kind of a continuation of who's lining up where and when. Particularly along the D line and the O line, like where these guys are playing. Are they playing first team? They playing second team reps, and who's in those rotations, and then also kind of linebacker, because I think Isaiah Simmons has been a guy that's gotten some reps. I believe with the ones at times, even subbing in. So that's interesting.
Let's see if he keeps getting those snaps, because
right.
He's another one that if you can get his potential out of him, he was the 8th overall pick.
Right, and I don't think Quay's really been participating, coming off an injury or whatever it may be. Maybe it's contract related as well, but still, you have Hopper there as a 3rd-round pick from last year, and obviously McDuffie and Cooper, but Simmons has been getting some reps there, so that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, for the mini camps, I just want to see who's lining up where and who they're lining up with, like that, those kind of rotations and what they're doing there. But other than that, I think that's the main one. It's just where they're putting everybody right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Simmons is one I'm watching. I want to see if we get any indication about where Bullard is at, position wise and depth wise. Is he pushing for starting reps anywhere, and where is that? And I think it's obviously exciting to hopefully get a few more looks at Matthew Golden. See him running routes is a lot of fun. What was Andy Herman's comment? Just everything looks natural. Everything he does looks natural. It was something like that. But yeah, I mean,
I like that.
He is. He's fun to watch, and again, it's just like you can't wait to see these guys on the field, and that's kind of the buildup that we are now going into, right? So it's about 6 weeks away till they start training camp. Is that about right?
Yeah, I believe it's like around July 23rd.
Towards the end of July.
Yeah. So it'll be here before you know it.
That it will. Just like our 100th episode, man. Our 100th episode is coming up next week. We're going to do a 100th episode next week. You guys better join us. Hopefully we'll have something cool.
Tell everybody else to join us, and we'll do a little celebrating, a little reminiscing.
Yeah. We might have to see if we can get a few guests on here, or talk about some of the highlights that we've had. I will say one thing that I thought about this last week, after the Eagles game in week 1 last year, I said that Eagles team very well could be the best team in the NFL. I was right.
Did.
So just wanted to call that out. I didn't take the time to go back and find the clip and throw that out there, but I did say that.
Yes, you did.
So maybe we can find a few of them. Do you have any that you remember being right about, Tim?
Have I been right yet? But yeah, I hope so.
Oh man, I was trying to set you up. You were right about Jaire.
I know. Yeah, I was thinking that, but I wasn't going to take the obvious one. I was right about Jaire, but
you were right about Jaire. I eat my words. I was wrong. I said it was media fueled. I think part of it might have been, the media didn't help, but it ultimately seems like the end was here. And so you were right, Tim, and I was wrong. And we can acknowledge those. I don't have any problem with that, right? We can do that. What else is going on?
Can we both just acknowledge that we're happy that Jaire Watch is now over?
Yeah. I do like having the finality of it. I do like the lack of speculation. And we speculate how the DB room works out. Will they make other moves? But I do like that it's done. And I wish Jaire all the best. I'm really rooting for him to go to Baltimore, go play with your boy, Lamar. And heck, dude, I hope you play for a Super Bowl, but just stay out of the NFC North, man. Go away. Go away. Don't come here. Don't do
Yeah.
that. It's such a terrible move. I hate when they do that.
I hope he goes to the AFC, but I'm already waiting for the tweet or whatever, the update tomorrow that he's going to Minnesota. So
the Bears trolls were already out. Well, what if we signed Jaire? Yeah, Minnesota, that's a classic move. Detroit they don't typically go to Detroit. That one would actually maybe be more salty than any of the others, because it's, him going to do Detroit and staying healthy, that defense could be just a nightmare.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to see that, but I fully expect them to end up in the division.
Yeah. I don't want him to end up in the division. I'm rooting hard against what you think right now.
I don't want it. Believe me, I don't want it.
I know you don't want it. I know, but you think
Buffalo
it will happen,
or Baltimore or something. But I think it's happened so many times. Like, I just expect it.
It's happened a lot. Scott Becker hanging with us here later in the show. Jaire is talented, but his contract was too big for his injury history.
Yes.
Yeah. And the point that I continue to make is there. And nobody's asking this question, which is, again, a criticism I have of the Packer media this offseason. Nobody's asking about what his health is like right now. Is he healthy right now? Is he like, if we're starting week 1 today, is he playing? And nobody's asked the question. I think that was kind of more surprising. The Packers front office haven't had to answer any questions about his status, which I think they've gotten lucky that they haven't had to answer those questions.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, if they had to play a game today, I don't know what his status would be, but I would think whatever team he's going to end up on, he'll be ready to go for training camp. But
yeah, but I wonder how similar this is to the Bakhtiari situation, where they just couldn't get certainty about his injury and the severity and whatever. I mean, there was never really a good formal explanation about it. Bakhtiari hasn't played football since. Now it seems like Jaire will go play football still, but how much re-injury risk is there? How much is he just propped up with, paper clips and bubble gum? That's my question. And I think that's probably, again, the Packers have more information on it than we do. But I really do wonder what his current status and how that factors into it. Scott again says, I think he goes to Carolina, which is his home. That would make a lot of sense too. There hasn't been a lot of chatter about that, but that would be a decent move.
And the last time he played there, he made himself captain. So I think, maybe
it's an important place to him.
Yeah, I guess so. Made himself captain, went out there for the coin toss.
Man, I know that was a salty thing that a lot of people didn't like, but man, I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny.
It's crazy, but I mean, I guess it's fitting for his personality. So yeah, that was. Yeah.
And the players seem to respond to it fine. They're just like, well, yeah, I mean, it's his hometown.
The crazy thing is like he screwed it up, like I guess they won the toss.
Did he screw up the toss or something?
They had to help, like the referee had to be like, "Are you sure?" Like, because he was trying to defer or something. And if they would have went with that, it would have meant the Packers not only kicked off to start the game, they would have had to kick off again at the start of the second half. So they would have basically lost the possession. But the referee kind of helped them through it. And I think whoever else was out there with them like changed it. It was like, no. We want to get the ball at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was something.
Yeah, I've heard those conversations before. Like, hey, don't say this because then we won't get the ball here or there. Jaire, man. Good years, though. I do remember some great years from him. A lot of fun to watch in his prime when he was on the field, man. So great Packer games, great Packer highlights. It's a shame he couldn't get a ring with the Packers, but I think that this is a path to the next ring. It's part of the path. He just couldn't be part of it. It is what it is. Gute's usually right about these moves. That's all there is to say about it,
Right.
So anyway, oh man, I almost forgot this. Look at this. Matthew Tan getting in here with the reminder. Steelers Packers, man. Steelers Packers. We got a Raj. but not coming to Green Bay. We got to go. We're going to Pittsburgh, right? Isn't that the play?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't get A-Raj at Lambeau, but we get A-Raj.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about it. Whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of don't even care. Like I do. I'm gonna care for that week, because I do want to see the Packers just bury him into the turf over and over again. But then after that, I'm good. Like, move on. He can come back to Lambeau one day and get his jersey retired, and then I'm good. I don't need to see. Don't come back anymore. I'm just fade away. Like I don't need him around, for several reasons I won't even get into. But
fair enough.
Beyond that, like what he does with the Steelers, like they play the Bears, they play the Vikings and the Lions. I hope he plays good and they beat those three teams. Other than that, I don't care anymore. It's so, I don't know. It feels like it was so long ago. It really wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
All the drama, I don't need it anymore. I don't care. It's the same stuff with him over and over again. Now it's just a new team. I don't know what the Steelers were once a proud franchise. It's one thing for the Jets to go and like beg him to come there and give up the draft picks that they gave up and get all his boys in there and turn the whole franchise over to him. Like you expect that from a laughing stock like the Jets. But for the Steelers, and I know they're not getting his guys yet, but
yeah, hopefully they don't stoop to that. I think that's proven itself out.
Yeah, but they waited for him all off season, and I'm sure there was some kind of an agreement there. But they basically were like, yeah, we're cool with you not being here all off season, but can you show up for mini camp since it's mandatory? Okay, he'll sign, he'll show up, take his pictures, and do his press conference. But like, you're the Steelers. Like, I don't know. There's just some franchises you think are like above that kind of stuff. Like they're going to beg this guy to play for him when he wasn't their first choice. And the Steelers definitely weren't his first choice. Like he wanted to go to Minnesota and they told him no. And he wanted to go to the Rams and they decided to keep Stafford. So it's like, I don't know. From a Steelers perspective, the best case scenario is it ends up the way all the Steelers seasons seem to end up was like they win 9 games and they get blown out in the first round and they're done. Like that's best case scenario. He's not going there and winning a Super Bowl or winning 14 games and taking them deep into the playoffs. It ain't happening. Like, and there's a real chance that he goes in there and he bombs out or he gets hurt and who knows, maybe Tomlin gets fired. I know they don't usually fire coaches in Pittsburgh, but I mean, it might happen there with what could potentially go on. Like, I don't see the upside for the Steelers. I don't get it. I know a lot of their fans are kind of like upset about it and they don't get it either.
Fans are upset about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've seen a lot of people that are Steeler fans that are like, why are we wasting our time with this guy? You know, for 1 year, of what? Like, you're not beating, like, you're not better than Baltimore. You're not better than the Chiefs. You're not better than the Bills. You probably not better than the Bengals and several other teams. Like, you're not getting, like, it's the same Russell Wilson and washed up Ben Roethlisberger. Like, get a real quarterback. Like, start, trying to establish your own guy. And then from Rodgers' perspective, like, I guess he just wants to go out on a better note than what happened with the Jets, which I get that. But
yeah, considering his ego, he wants to, have his legacy end on a nice note.
Right. But he doesn't really want to be there. Like, that was clear. He wanted Minnesota. He wanted the Rams, and those weren't available. So, okay, I'll go to the team that is available that wants me.
Man, that's so weird.
And yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't get it from his perspective. Or the Steelers.
Holding on to the dream, man. I think that's probably the only team that'll give him a shot right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. And then the whole setup of their offense. I know we don't need to get, this isn't a Steelers podcast, but like,
yeah, right. He's got some weapons there, but I think that they're just playing Madden right now. Like, you got to make personalities work together. You can't just slap some talent together and hope that it works. Like, we've watched teams do that for decades and it never works. I mean, goodness gracious, how many Cowboys teams are guilty of that? Which, by the way, I saw a few Cowboys beat writers out there with their eyes on Jaire. That kind of hurt me a little bit. I guess there's worse places for him to end up than Dallas, but I don't want him in Dallas.
And like him showing up now, it doesn't give the receivers enough time to learn all the hand signals. Right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, they weren't there before. How could they possibly know the hand signals when
right.
they weren't there before when we came up with these
Right.
hand signals?
But if they better know him or he's going to stare him down and throw him under the
Idiot.
bus.
Jeez, man, that's why we
So,
stink. These guys don't know my hand signals.
And to take it back to the Packers, like, there's once we get to that week, there's going to be a lot of hype and anticipation, and like we'll talk about it, we'll be hyped for it. Like, but sitting here now, I'm like, I just want them to go in there and beat the crap out of the Steelers, just like any other team, maybe a little more so because it's him, and then move on. Like, that's it.
The prophecy has to be filled, man. So when the handoff from Favre to Rodgers happened, Favre came back to Lambeau with the Vikings, and Rodgers and Clay Matthews destroyed him with Randy Moss. And I was at that game. That was one of my coolest Lambeau experiences ever. So when the game ended, nobody left. The stands were full for like 20 minutes after the game because it was just such a surreal moment for them to beat Favre, right? He had Randy Moss. It was just kind of this nice closure of that era. All right, now let's go win a Super Bowl. But man, special experience. And I hope that we get the same thing when the Packers go to Pittsburgh this year, except I guess it wouldn't be at Lambeau, so it wouldn't be that special. But if they win a Super Bowl afterwards, it will be special. Be a nice note on that journey. And again, I think that has to happen. I mean, we've had a lot of parallels to this handoff, man. You need that victory over Rodgers so that Jordan can rise.
Yeah, and it was Rodgers' third year as a starter. He won the Super Bowl. I think same age as what Jordan's going to be. It's his third year as a starter. So
it's weird parallels on these handoffs. So that's kind of the natural next step. Rodgers has to get his butt whooped now, and he's got. It's kind of funny because he's got an arsenal of receivers, kind of like Favre had. So there will be no excuses, old man. That said, we're obviously rooting for the Packers in that game. They're going to whoop them. We know that, Matthew. That's all we got this week, though. We got your reactions for Jaire. Not happy about it. Love the guy, but understand it. It's logical. And Gute's usually right on these things. So in Gute we trust, and we march on. But the Packers, they're going to be the 60th Super Bowl champion. So that's just all there is to it. It's just a matter of how. It's all we're figuring out right now. We appreciate y'all riding along with us every week here on the Pack Weekly Pod. It's been fun. Thank you for subscribing, listening, all of that. If you guys had fun with us tonight, spike that like button for us. Tell your friends about the show. Share it. Send it around. Most importantly, though, go on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Nice little click. Real quick. Super effortless. But it is deeply meaningful to us. So we thank you so much for that. So much for listening along, hanging out with us in the comments. You guys are great. And we will see y'all again next Monday, 9:30 p.m. Packers fans. As always, go